Renters and owners faced with losing their homes are getting mixed messages about long-term relief. That's the main reason why the city of Boston has been drawing attention to ways people can get help right away, especially if they're experiencing financial difficulties related to the pandemic. To tell us about that help, which is available through the city's Office of Housing Stability, is its Deputy Director, Dr. Taylor Cain. Thank you very much for being with us, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Doctor, I'd like to start with, I guess, the best part of the news here is that the city has maybe an unprecedented amount of resources to help people. So what are we talking about?
Yes, so right now, the city of Boston has been operating a rent relief fund since this past April. And this is a $50 million fund whose sole purpose is really to help tenant households that are facing difficulty paying rent. Our fund also helps with folks that have utility arrears or need assistance with moving costs, whether it's security deposit or first and last month's rent. So really trying to get the word out about this resource that is available through the City of Boston's Office of Housing Stability. Households are eligible to receive up to $15,000 in assistance, and that can be used to cover rental arrears. It can be used to cover current rent, and then it can be used to cover prospective rent as well. So folks know that they're going to face continued difficulty paying rent, really a resource to help folks cover arrears that they may have and really help build some building blocks for stability looking forward.
I can certainly imagine a lot of people have encountered hardship because of the pandemic. For these programs, is this something that people have to demonstrate in some way, in a formal way?
Yeah, so for the city's rent relief fund, this is a program that is eligible for households that make up to 80% of area median income, which varies by household size. To be eligible for the city's rent relief fund, folks also have to attest that they have experienced some type of economic impact due to COVID-19. And what we've seen from the folks that have applied for assistance for the fund previously is that economic impact really covers a lot of different things, from folks who have lost employment or had their hours reduced or have had increasing childcare expenses or childcare or care responsibilities. We know that the economic impact of COVID has been really widespread, and really want to make sure that folks that meet those income thresholds know that this is a resource that's available to them.
One thing I believe you tracked is where some of the people encountering hardship had been working before the pandemic. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so one thing we've been paying a lot of close attention to is understanding where are parts of the city where we know that there have been lots of claims filed for unemployment benefits. Also, what we know is that the ongoing pandemic really exacerbated what was already existing housing crisis and instability. So we already know neighborhoods that are at disproportionate risk of eviction. And what we've really seen over the past several months is that we continue to see a large number of applications from neighborhoods like East Boston, from Roxbury, from Mattapan, from Dorchester in particular, neighborhoods where we know that households were already experiencing vulnerability as it relates to their housing, and perhaps faced additional difficulty due to losing jobs, having to care for children, or losing hours at their workplace.
I know this might apply more to aid that's being channeled through state agencies, but there have been difficulties using the money that's available, maybe because of what's involved in filling out forms. Maybe there's a reluctance about turning over certain kinds of information. How has the city been dealing with that kind of factor?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And one of the things that we've really prioritized over the past year is really taking an iterative approach to making changes to the rent relief fund and really learning from the feedback that we're hearing from folks who are seeking this assistance and from key community stakeholders who are working with folks who are applying for different rental assistance programs. What we've really tried to do is minimize the barriers to entry for folks. So in order to apply for the city's rental relief Relief Fund, the documentation that we really need from tenants to begin the application process is photo identification for that head of household, documentation of income, and that can be pay stubs. We also have created forms that allow for folks who receive cash income or aren't receiving any income currently to attest that they are receiving cash income or no income. And we also know that there are folks that don't have formal lease agreements in place. So we've also created templates for tenant agreements that folks can use to start the application process for the Rent Relief Fund.
And imagine you must have help available in different languages too.
Yes, all of our language access has been really important to us from the beginning of the Rent Relief Fund, and making sure that all of our application materials are available in at least 10 different languages. And we're also able to provide support over the phone for folks that are experiencing difficulty completing the application form online. So to be able to walk through the application on over the phone with folks. And then what we've also started to try to do is to be more out in the neighborhood and help folks complete applications in spaces that they're already going to. So we currently have staff doing pop-up application sites in Grove Hall, at the Grove Hall Library, as well as the Mattapan Library. And we'll be expanding that over the coming weeks as we work to partner with more community-based organizations to really help create spaces in neighborhoods where folks can go to get help completing applications.
I know over the last year and a half, we've had a number of guests explaining eviction process to our viewers, but I imagine somebody who gets something in the mail while saying you have to move out within a very limited amount of time, people are going to panic when they see that. So what should they know about, especially about how your office can help them?
Yes, so we are definitely here as a resource. And one of the things that we really try to reiterate to folks is that only a judge can evict you, and know that there is a lot of concern that comes when folks receive a notice to quit and wonder what are next steps. One of the best steps really to do is to reach out to us, whether that's via email or whether that's through phone to our office. We can help connect folks with understanding what their rights are and what available resources are. The Rent Relief Fund is one of kind of a series of resources that exist for folks that are potentially facing eviction. It's a really great resource for folks that are potentially at risk of eviction due to non-payment of rent. The city has also done a lot of work to really try to be more upstream in the approach to supporting households that are at risk of eviction. So one of the things just wanted to highlight is that the city has implemented its Housing Stability Notification Act, which requires landlords who are planning to end a tenancy to provide tenants a notice of their rights and resources, and to submit a copy of that notice to quit to the city, which allows us to then proactively reach out to folks and let them know about the available resources, whether that's financial assistance or whether that's legal services, to help them as they respond to that notice.
I know there might be some big landlords who can withstand a rough patch, but a lot of the renters we're talking about, they live in houses that are owned by people who don't have those kinds of resources, who are worried about foreclosure. Can the city help them?
Yes, that's a great question, because we really understand that there's an ecosystem that has been impacted by this ongoing pandemic, the impact for tenants, the impact for landlords, particularly smaller kind of mom and pop landlords, who really rely on that rental income in terms of maintaining their own housing. So there are state resources that are available for mortgage assistance for households in those types of positions, that are available via online application for households that are in need of mortgage assistance. And the city is constantly working to identify ways to support homeowners who are renting out properties, to make sure that both their tenants are receiving the rental assistance that they may be eligible for, but also thinking about supports for folks that have mortgages that they are facing difficulty paying.
Well, finally, I know there are more details about more ways to help people. So is there a way people can find that online, or maybe even get a phone number they can call, especially if they're in a crisis?
Yes, there is a phone number as well as an email address that folks can reach out to. So the email address that folks can reach out to is housingstability@boston.gov. And then the best phone number to reach us is 617-635-4200.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share that information with our viewers.
Thanks for having me.
This is Dr. Taylor Cain from the Office of Housing Stability.